Well, let's move into Steph Curry from last night. He hit 4,000 career threes last night, and today's his birthday. Today's his 37th birthday. I mean, that's actually kind of crazy to just even wrap your head around it. But like I said, he was celebrating 4,000 career threes. Just initial thoughts on that and kind of like how he's changed the game of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's been said for years now. I feel like ever since he won his first NBA championship, they were like, everyone kind of switched to their ideals on how they felt about the three. It was always used, but like the fact that they were able to base a whole team off that between Klay Thompson and the rest of the shooters on that initial like 2014, 2015 team was absolutely insane. And what hasn't been said about Steph Curry is he is the greatest shooter of all time. They're one of the greatest players of all time. I don't know. There's a talk on NBA on TNT. Where does he stack up in the GOAT conversation? Shaq was very adamant that he deserves a place in there. I don't know if I'd go that far, but he is the greatest shooter of all time. And I think that the debate between him and Magic Johnson is getting farther and farther away as Steph Curry ages in his career, where there's a huge debate for a couple years now that who is the greatest point guard of all time. And I think Steph Curry like continually is getting separation. He runs around the court, is one of the best like shooters, the best shooter that we've ever seen. And then also he makes his teammates better. Like he always has a couple assists a game. He's just he's a really good facilitator as well, is what I'm trying to say. So just overall, like one of the greatest. I don't have a list off the top of my head, but he'd probably fit somewhere into the top 10 in my greatest players of all time list, somewhere in the top 15, maybe. I don't have a list off the top of my head, but again, just the greatest shooter of all time. Let's just set some boundaries here. Greatest shooter of all time, greatest point guard of all time, in my opinion.
Wow. Yeah, definitely greatest shooter of all time. That's without a doubt. And I think at a certain point, he's kind of made the 3-point shot a little bit of not like a less impressive thing, because I think we still celebrate Steph Curry's accomplishments just as we did last night, right? With 4,000 threes and then his career retrospective on his birthday. But I think any player who comes after him now isn't the one that changed the game. It was Steph Curry. He was good enough to make taking those threes acceptable. So greatest shooter without a doubt. Also, if you need a 3-point shot, who you calling? It's going to be Steph Curry. If you're building an all-time team, Steph Curry's probably going to be on that team.
Unless you're Max Kellerman.
Yeah, unless you're Max Kellerman, you take Andre Iguodala. But yeah, like you want him on your team, and he's going to be either the backup point guard or the point guard. I think he's top 2 for point guards. I still give the edge to Magic Johnson just because I think the career accolades are so ridiculous. But hey, who knows what Steph Curry would have been able to do with the Showtime Lakers? Like, right? Like that team was stacked. I mean, but Steph Curry still had an amazing supporting cast around him, especially in those 2 rings that he won with KD, Klay, Draymond Green. Like when we look back at some of those guys, I definitely think that their legacies will also be amplified. I have Steph Curry definitely like nearing the top 10. If he's not top 10, he's like 12, 13 range. I have him right around there.
Yeah, and I mean, his career isn't over yet. The Warriors are playing really well this season. It feels like he's towards the tail end of his career. If this isn't his last season, maybe next season. But I mean, you talk about career accolades. If the Warriors somehow are able to make the finals and possibly win the finals this season, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but that'd make him a 5-time NBA champion. He's currently a 4-time NBA champion. Obviously, 2 MVPs, 1 Finals MVP, 11 NBA All-Star selections. Clutch player of the year, if you want to throw that in there. He was a scoring champion twice, which is 1 more than LeBron. So I mean, like no reason to throw that in there. But yeah, I mean, just career accolades. He's starting to stack up a couple of them when you start to look back at them, because you don't like, not that many players just in general are ever going to be 10 plus time All-Star selections and 2-time MVPs, 4 NBA championships. He has a lot of things to his name, where it's like, obviously Magic Johnson has so much as well. But
I was just thinking with Magic, he's got like the 5 rings, and then I think he's got 3 Finals MVPs, and just in general, he was so high up the assist, the assist all-time assist list, and I just felt like in his time, it was really impressive for what he was able to do, because obviously his career got cut short. So like it's tougher to compare, but I just felt like right out of the gate, some of the legendary things that he was able to do is very difficult to match. But like I'm all for a Steph Curry, Magic Johnson debate. Like I am all for it. Like I do think it's super close. And then I see your perspective where you already think that he's passed him. too. My only like I need to hold off on this is I just don't think that he's really in the conversation of the real goats.
Mhm.
Because then it's like how big is the conversation, right? How many players are you including? Because like when we get into like that second tier, then I think maybe I'm here to talk about like Steph Curry, Shaq, Kobe, and other great players, Tim Duncan, that aren't in that like GOAT conversation, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, but like GOAT, like it's LeBron, it's Michael Jordan, and then Kareem, I think, is a very respectable GOAT if you're, an older time, kind of basketball lover. I think that's respectable, but like I don't think he's reached that tier. So like I always try to push back on it because I don't want him to be an overrated player because that
Yeah.
always gives you a bad rap too. Because I still just think that Steph Curry is so great. He just doesn't deserve that title though.
Yeah, no, I don't have any pushback on that either. I think that he doesn't deserve to be a part of that go conversation, but that doesn't make him not a great player. Like he's still anywhere from that like top 15 to even top 10 range and greatest players, NBA players of all time. Changed the game, but you just can't cement his legacy as the greatest player of all time, especially because in the middle of his prime, he was the number 2 option. Like maybe not in the middle of it, but towards the end of his like first prime, I guess if you want to call it that. Like Kevin Durant comes over there and he's still solidifies himself as the best player on that team. So I don't know that you can be the like greatest player of all time if you weren't even the best player on your team for an extended period of time during your career. So that's just my personal opinion. That's why I wouldn't have him as my go, and that's why a lot of people don't have him in that conversation. But I mean, still, like again, one of the and he was playing second fiddle to Kevin Durant, who's also in that conversation of
I don't think he was second fiddle on those teams. I think KD got the Finals MVPs, but I agree with your sentiment though,
it
because that
was
team
his
was so ridiculously stacked that it should be recognized that those 2 rings at the same when we penalize Kevin Durant, we do still need to penalize Steph Curry a little bit, even though he had one before and one after. I feel like it should be noted as well that those rings are like very good, but it was truly a team accomplishment how great those teams were. I just don't think he was second fiddle just because when Steph Curry was out, that team struggled a lot. When Kevin Durant was out, that team kind of found their same rhythm that they had in 2015. And so they obviously weren't championship contending without Kevin Durant, like far from it. But
yeah,
I
it's just
agree with the sentiment. I agree with what you're trying to say.
I know the large sentiment around that team was that it was Steph Curry's team, but like Kevin Durant was the best player. I don't know if that's like what you're trying to get
Yeah.
at there. Yeah, because I don't think that in like I don't know. I feel Kevin Durant was the best player on that team, but like Steph Curry made that team go. I feel like is how that kind of worked.